Hey guys, so today's video is going to be one that I know a lot of you guys wanted to see. I'm just going to go ahead and talk a little bit about the MCAT. For those of you guys who don't know, the MCAT has actually changed. So I took the old MCAT before I came to med school, which was shorter than this new one here. This new one is going to be a little longer. It's going to be 7 hours, I believe. And they added things like sociology and psychology to get a more holistic feel for people who want to go to med school. So since I didn't take this new MCAT that you guys will have to take, my experience is a little different, so I really won't speak much on mine, but I will go ahead and just tell you guys some tips that I think might be helpful to help you guys conquer the MCAT and make it to medical school. Tip number 1 is practice. It might sound redundant to you guys, but you really just need to practice because there's kind of like a limited amount of information that they can actually test you on. And if you go on the website for AAMC, they'll have it listed out there of the topics and the subjects that you need to know for the MCAT. So they can only ask you about those. So if you see enough questions, you'll start to see the same material over and over again. So I definitely recommend a prep course or just like buying the book. I know they have them at like Barnes & Noble, but also buying the online version because this MCAT is on the computer, and the more you can practice on a computer to mimic a test day environment, the better that you will fare. So in order to practice, you guys will need some resources. So there are some free practice exams online. I'll probably link them down below. But there also are things like Exam Crackers, Kaplan, and Princeton Review, just to name a couple of the bigger resources that cater to any kind of examinations. Personally, I use kind of a mix between the two. I use Kaplan more for my subject preparation, so they have really good notes and helping you review for the courses and learning the material firsthand. And I also do their practice questions for the more like chemistry and biology and things like that. But for Princeton Review specifically, they are really good on their like reading passages. So their passages are usually harder than you'll actually find on the MCAT. So if you start to train yourself to do well on Princeton Review's reading passages, then when you get to test day, it should be a breeze and you should do really well in the reading section. And it is really imperative for you to do well in the reading section because that's your chance to get ahead, because most pre-meds don't fare very well on the reading side. So their lowest score out of all the breakdowns is usually in the reading passages side. So if you score higher in that section, it'll put you above the crowd. In addition to using Princeton Review's passages, you should also get in the habit of reading more, just because as a pre-med in college, you kind of stop leisurely reading and you only start reading like assigned textbooks from your professors. So the more that you can read outside of your science textbooks, the better, because on the MCAT, they will not be giving you science passages, more of your humanities passages. And they do that on purpose to trip you up. So read things like New York Times. They have some like a whole list of links. I'll put them down below as well, of like places you can get them on an app on your phone, and you can just like breeze through it while you're waiting for the bus or walking to class. And it'll definitely help you get in a habit of seeing that material, so it's not brand new for you when you start to practice for the MCAT. Tip number 2 is to identify your strengths and weaknesses. And I say that just because when you're studying, you tend to gel really well with material that you're either good at, you understand well, or you just like in general. So you'll focus more on that, and you'll see things that you're either not so good at or you don't really understand. So you're like, let me not spend as much time there. But you need to go back and review your weaknesses more than your strengths. So when I talked about practicing, you should practice exams, taking the whole exam, but you should also review the answers that you got right and the answers that you got wrong. And look at why you got it wrong, and look at the subject breakdown of the questions that you tend to get wrong, and hone in on that area, just because you never know what's going to show up on your test come exam day. And I can talk about that personally. For me, my worst subject when it came to pre-med things was physics, specifically like E&M, which But I kind of did like Newtonian mechanics because I could draw out the picture and see it, and it kind of made sense. But E&M was just something that wasn't tangible for me, so I just couldn't understand it. But they were like, oh, most of the physics on the MCAT is Newtonian mechanics. You only need to know a couple of things from E&M and you're going to be golden. This face. I walk into my exam for my physics section and looking for Newtonian mechanics. Next, no? What is it? All E&M, basically. I don't think I used any of the like 5 formulas that you did for velocity. I don't think I used any of them on my physics session, which is kind of unheard of because all of my practice exams was Newtonian mechanics. So needless to say, my heart dropped and I was like, I'm gonna fail the MCAT because I don't know E&M. But somehow I found a passage that really worked with me and just got back on board. But that is just for you guys to know that things that you don't think are going to show up on the exam can and will show up when you least expect it. So go ahead and prepare because it's only going to help yourself. So tip number 3 is to know your biochem. Biochemistry is going to be a big part of the exam. It'll pretty much kind of present itself in almost every section. So if you haven't taken biochem, try to take it earlier on. For me, I know they suggested us to take biochem either spring of junior year or like fall of senior year, just because it wasn't going to be on the MCAT, but that's changed. So the earlier that you can take biochem, the better. And really, the earlier you can take any of your pre-med classes, the better, because it gives you more time to prepare. Tip number 4 is to schedule your time. Most times you think, all right, I'm going to study till X amount of time and keep it moving, but no. You really need to schedule your time when it comes to practicing for the MCAT. And literally, I wrote out on a sheet of paper, I folded it up, made some charts, and I wrote how long I was going to study and what I was going to study that day, and then what practice tests I was going to do. I started off with like subject practice tests, and then I moved on to like whole practice tests as I got further along in my study. So tip number 5 is to reward yourself, because you're going to be kind of isolating yourself to study. You're going to get a lot of study hours in, so you need to focus on your studies, but you also need to focus on rewarding yourself for accomplishing your studies. Because if you don't do that, you'll burn out. And burnout is too real. You'll hear about burnout throughout your medical career. So the earlier that you learn to reward yourself for doing things right, the better it'll be for you. So that was my video on some tips to help you guys study for the MCAT. If you want to know any more specifics or want me to talk more about the exam, let me know in the comment box below and I'll work on that for you guys. Alrighty, well, see you guys in my next video. Bye.